Hello Eternity Dev. My name is Manuel Joseph Jet, and I'll be showing you how to build a to-do list app using the famous Eternity tutorial repository. The to-do list app tutorial will show you how to develop a ToDoManager Sophia SmartContract, write unit tests for it, use AEproject, and finally communicate between your single-page view front-end app and the Sophia SmartContract. In this video, we'll focus on building the Sophia SmartContract, writing our unit test for this contract, and deploying our smart contract using AEproject to æternity testnet middleware. In this tutorial, I'll make use of my cloned æternity tutorial repository to explain how to achieve our goal, but you can always check out the tutorials on æternity GitHub account. To see æternity on GitHub, I will open a new tab and type github.com/æternity. Now that we're here, I would locate the tutorial repository using the search, and we're here. So as you can see, there are a lot of tutorials on this repository that would transform you from a novice developer to an intermediate AE developer. For this video, we'll make use of this tutorial, while we'll make use of this in our next video for this series. This is the file for the tutorial, build the to-do list app 1, and this for part 2. So I'm going to head now to my cloned GitHub repository. Now I'm in my cloned GitHub repo, and as I said earlier, we'll develop a to-do list smart contract, which will be able to create new tags, list existing tags, edit tags name, change tag status, and delete tags. Our to-do list app will look like this once completed. So before we get started, you must have installed AEproject framework on your device and must be familiar with AEproject and Sophia smart contract development. Lastly, you must have Git installed. And if you follow the tutorials on the æternity repository, you would be able to install AEproject, which we have a quick link here. And there are also tutorials that explain Sophia smart contract. So let's get started by creating a new directory called ToDoContract, and then we bootstrap AEproject in the directory. So the first thing I'm going to do is to open my terminal and use the make directory command to do, it should be to do contracts and cd to do contracts. Now we're here. The next thing I love to do is to open my IDE, which in my case is VS Code. Okay, now we are here and I can close this. So what I want to do now is to invoke our terminal in our IDE and then run the AEproject init command. This will take care of installing AEproject locally on our device. So let's wait while that is going. Great. Now that our directory has AEproject file, and as you can see, it comes with a lot of files and folders. The contract is having a sample smart contract. Our deployment, we have our deployment script, we have our Docker configurations, we have our test folder with the test script. Great, right? So the next thing we're going to do now is to create our ToDoManager.aes smart contract. By doing that, what we have to do first is to create the file itself, which we can do by copying the command there and pasting it here. Okay, now we have our file, and the next thing we want to do is to have our codes in it, right? So let me do that by copying everything here, which is the full smart contract code. Great. Then paste it here. All right. Let me give an overview of this code. As you can see, we have a map user to do, which is getting all users to do with its index. We have map user to do count, which gets the total list of to-dos a user has. And then we have this map that gets it to do by ID for a user. As you can see, we have a lot of private functions and public functions in this smart contract, in which the private functions help our smart contract internally, and our public functions, which is denoted by entry points, can be called outside our smart contract, which is in the client side app. So if you notice, some of our entry point functions have this keyword called stateful, which means the contract, the function itself can edit our smart contract state. We have this add to do function, which adds a to do. We have this get to do count, which gets the total count of the users to do. We have this private function get to do, which helps in adding a user to do. We have the edit to do state. This function changes the status of our to do. We have the edit to do name function that helps us change a to do name. We have the delete function that deletes a to do. Then this get to do by ID, get it to do by the index. Then this gets the old to do of the user. And then we have this get to do by ID private functions that help in editing to do either in the state or in the name. So now let's move back to our repo and see what next to do. So the next thing we want to do now is to write our unit test for the smart contract. To do that, we have to create our ToDoManager test.js file. And to do that, I'm just going to copy this command as well, and then head back here. I'm going to locate the test folder, and I'm going to open this in terminal and run the command. Great. Now we have our test file as well, which is presently empty, and you can see through this sample, we have this. So let's head back to our tutorial repository and see what our to-do test would do. So our test would be able to create a new task, get tags, complete the tags, edit the tags, and also delete the tags. So to do that, since we have the full version of the test script here as well, I'm just going to copy this. And I'm going to paste it right here. Great. So let me delete this and close this. As you can see in our test file, we have a constant variable called deployer, which is our AEproject library itself, getting the deployer from our AEproject library. Then we have our ToDoManager contract part, which is our ToDoManager.aes file. Then we have the listed function. starting from this, that is describing our test, in our case, ToDoManager contract. Then we have this let deployer, which is presently empty. And we have this let owner key pair equals to wallet 0. Now, the beauty of AEproject is when you want to test, it gives you 10 different wallets you can use to test without you using your token. It gives you this for free. And to do that, the first thing we want to do is to start our local node and compiler on Docker. And before we run that command, let us delete our sample contract and test file. So I'm going to delete this first, and then delete this. Great. So let's run our local node and our compiler on Docker. And to do that, I'm just going to invoke our terminal again and run the AEproject env command. So this command is going to start our local node and compiler. And as you can see, that is going. Okay. Getting this error, no such container. I guess this should be my internet. Let me run the command again. Okay, states. Okay. Why this is going, let me explain little of the test file. Oh, great. So the earlier error was due to my internet, and as you can see, node was successfully started. Our compiler was successfully started as well, and now it is funding our wallets. So we have a minor wallet which has this public key and private key. We have our public key for wallet 0, which is this, and then we have these other 10 wallets. As you can see, default wallets were successfully funded, and we are good to go for our unit testing. So the first thing we want to do is actually to deploy deploy this contract using our owner key pairs wallets. So if you check here, which is this, the 0, so it will be this test will be deploying our smart contract using this public key and this private key. And as you can see, the balance of the wallet at the moment is this value. And then, so this is our deployer, and this is where contract is being deployed. As you can see, when we created this variable deployer, it was empty at the moment. Then at this place, we initialized it saying it's equals to new deployer, which is this, and it's deploying locally, and it is using this. It's using this private key. So our test here is saying after you deploy this, so if our contract was successfully deployed, no problem. Else it should give us could not deploy the to-do smart contract. So this is checking whether our smart contract was deployed. So moving to these functions, let me close this terminal. Okay, so moving to this this one that is actually creating a new task. This is the one we checked last. So this whole function here is it is interacting with our contract, where this is the one creating a task, where at the initial stage we are saying let task equals to A, and then when we are using the add to do function, which is stateful, and we're using this parameter inside now. So if it is okay, let us know. If it is not, let us know. So if you can see here, we created a variable called instance, which is our contract instance, and it's checking if this is deployed. So we have this constant deploy contract, which is equal to this as well. Then we are saying our instance now, our contract instance now should be await of the promise, which is the promise of this deployed contract. So this is creating a new task. This is getting all the tasks. So it should get task count successfully. So we have a task name A and we have a task B. And then if we add A and B together, we should have 2. So we added task A first, then we added task B, and then we are saying task count equals to get to do count, which this is also a function in our smart contract. So we're getting the to-do count of our owner key pair public key, which it's part of our wallet, as I explained earlier. Then we're getting the decoded result, which is expected to be 2. So we're saying if our task count now is equals to 2, which is this, then you're good to go. Then this is also getting all tasks, as we added task A, task B, and we're saying let all tasks equals to get to do's of the owner key, public key, and then we're saying if it is okay, get all tasks. Then we are completing a task, and the first thing we are saying is return false if a task is not completed. So we created a task, and we are saying if our decoded result that is complete is equals to false. If that is equal to false, which is this, then we are good to go. If it is equals to true in this case, where our task has the completed, the status of our task has been changed to completed, then return true here. As you can see, then we have this edit task, which is editing a task name. So we're saying add the task. Once you add the task, get the task name, which we're using the get to do by ID function now. And we're saying get the name. So if our name is equals to the task name, then we're good. Then this is changing the task, is changing the name by task ID. As you can see, this is also deleting the task function. Great, right? Cool. So the next thing we want to do now is to compile our smart contract. And to do that, we're going to use the AEproject compile command. So I'm going to invoke my terminal back, and I'm going to run AE. Okay, let me clear this first. Good. Now I can see AEproject compile. Great. Now we have our contract successfully compiled, which the compiler successfully compiled is our ToDoManager. As you can see here, contract ToDoManager.aes are successfully compiled. Then we're good to go. Now that we have our contract compiled, we can now test our contract using AEproject test command. The command should give us a successful log of this. So if we run AEproject test now, we should have this deployed to the contract as described in our test file. So let me go back here and run AEproject test. Great. Now we have this error, which we're going to solve. Anytime you run AEproject test command and you face this error, all you need to do, don't panic, is go back here and copy this command snippets and then paste it here. Okay, should be here. We want to install AEproject unit, want to install prompt, I want to install AEproject loader. Okay, cool. We have this added to our Node.js package. So I'm going to run clear now, and we run our AEproject text command. Great. Now we can see our project has started its test, and you can see the first test was successful, which is deploy to do contract. Then we have this create tax, which was successfully completed as well. Then now it is getting all tax, which is here. Cool. Great. Okay, it has gotten the first tax, which it's the tax count, and this is it. And now it is running to get all tax successful, and that is successful as well. Then it is completing a tax, which is returning false if the tax is not complete. Great, we have that as well. We have should return true if the tax is successfully completed. Okay, that's. Don't worry, I'm going to explain them something soon. So that is successfully completed as well. Now is editing a tax. Okay. Now it's changing a tax by its ID, which was successfully as well. Successful. And then it's running the final test, which is to delete a tax. Delete the tax. Okay, that is going as well. Great. 9 passing, there is no Sophia test contract to execute. That means all our tests for our smart contract was successful. And if you notice, when it was testing each function, it is deploying a new contract. It's deploying the same contract to perform the test. That is because when we added this function before each function, we are saying when you want to perform a new test, deploy the contract again, then test. So this first contract, this first test, which is create a tax, it deployed the contract to this address, then perform the test tax A, and since it was okay, it moved to the next one, which deployed the contract again and then performed the test. If you want to focus on just one deployment, which you just want it to deploy once, all you need to do is just to let this instance now, put it here instead, copy this, put it under here, and then this instance now is going to be the instance of your deployed promise instead of your deployed contract. So that will perform all the tests on just one contract. And because of the way our test here is written, we can't do that, because then our get tax won't expect to here, because it will have added the tax here first, then it will have added these 2 tax as well, which our expected tax count now should be 3. Okay, you know what? Let me just okay, completed tax. Yes. Okay, I guess I can perform that function here as well. So to do that, since we are here, our expected tax count here should be 3. And I'm just going to move this, just here, and this time around our instance, I'm going to copy this. After it has checked, and paste this here. This time around, this should be deployed promise, and then I'm going to close this and then run the test again. So this should create a tax A. This should get 3 tags, and this should get all the tags, which should be 5. This should edit this tax name, and so on. So let me just run the AEproject tax command again. Okay, starting. Okay, it was successfully deployed. It's creating the tax code. Successfully created new tax. Then it's getting tax. Perform the great. It has gotten the total count, which is 3, and it should get all the tax. Great. This was successful as well. Completing the tax. This was successful. And this time around, all the test is done on just this deployed contract. This time around, it's not deploying the contract to perform the text again. So let's wait for this to test. So if you want to write your unit testing app, you can just follow this procedure and you're good to go. This would make you test your contract. As you can see, 9 passing as well, there was no error. If there was an error, let me try to change something. Okay, let's see here. Let me put 4, in which the answer was supposed to be 3. That will give me an error saying that is not right. Okay. This is where we should expect an error, right? So let's see if it is working. Great. As you can see, this is showing should get tax count successful is wrong. It's in red. Then it's got all tax successfully, and then it's performing the other functions, which would be right. So let me just change this back to 3, and then we're good. Now that we have our smart contract working perfectly fine, and we've tested and everything is working perfectly fine, let's deploy our smart contract to the testnet middleware. To do that, the first thing we want to do is to move to our deploy script now and actually change this example contract, since we've deleted it, to ToDoManager AES. So if you check our error message now, the earlier one here said 9 passing. This now said 8 passing, 1 fail. And the one that was failed is they should get tax count successfully, which expected 3 to be equal to 4, which is wrong. So since it was not equal to 4, it gave us that error. So let's move back to our repo. And I've showed us this, that we need to change the example.contract AES to ToDoManager.AES. Then the next thing we want to run now is this AEproject deploy network testnet. So we're adding a flag of network, which we're saying deploy to testnet. So that is going. This will deploy our AEproject Sophia SmartContract, which is the ToDoManager, to the testnet middleware, in which we can perform operations without using real tokens. So let's wait for this to deploy to testnet so we can get our contract address. Our contract address should look like this, and we should get a result like this, which in contract todo.aes has been deployed to this. The deployment script finished successfully. This should be the log we should get. So when we get this log, make sure to keep your own contract address, which mine in this case, mine in this case is this, CTGNX. So what I'm going to do is to copy this, Control-C. I'm going to create a README file here. And I'm going to paste this here. So this is my contract address, in which we'll be making use of it in the part 2 of this series. So we will end the part 1 series here, as we have done a lot, and I'm sure you enjoyed it, right? So before I say see you in the next video, let's do a recap of what we've done so far. So we created a ToDoManager Sophia SmartContract that can create a new task, edit a task, delete a task after getting that task. Then we wrote unit tests for the contract to check if everything works as intended. And finally, we deployed our contract to testnet middleware. We will cover how to integrate this Sophia SmartContract on our front-end app in the part 2 of this tutorial series. So keep your contract address and see you in the next video. Bye.